Mike, the intern, Jay Stevens in the studio. I hit record this time, and it is time to discuss.
We're back, baby. We'll do it live.
Episode 181, one of the longest recording days I think we've ever had in the history of this. But anyway, today's pick was the Antisocial Network, from memes to mayhem.
Yeah, very good. I'm super impressed with this documentary. I knew nothing about it, and it was actually unfolded some really good information.
One of the things that I was very intrigued by was the access that they got to some of these people that helped start some of these movements.
Who were just kids when they started this stuff.
Kids at the time.
Amazing.
But like, you would think that all these years later, I mean, it got us 20 years beyond that almost, that this thing has been going on, that now they're my age, they're in their 40s, and they're like,
and it started as these little things, and it ended up with QAnon and this whole thing that was happening.
We'll go down this
amazing.
We'll go down this road because it's crazy. But to start off with, you made mention of it. It started with a bunch of kids, and this is another great example of why I am very happy this stuff didn't exist when I was 14, 15 years old. Now, I said I do have video of what we used to call skits that we would make when I was in junior high.
I'd like to see this.
I have it. I don't know if I'd ever show it to anyone. I have them. I used to hold on to them because I knew that one of us would get famous one day. And if I needed to blackmail that person, I'd have it.
Oh my gosh, you're regular.
But I would have just been.
You're a regular Jeffrey Epstein.
I would have been just blackmailing myself. So it's on a DVD recorded somewhere in all my. So when I die, if you guys want, you find that stuff. It's on a blank.
I'm looting the house.
No,
I'm dying before you. What am I talking about?
You don't know that. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Anyway, how did we get on the subject? So. The Antisocial Network. It starts off talking about how really 4chan was kind of the pusher for a lot of these movements, Anonymous, QAnon, all that stuff. And we'll get into that. But that was born out of necessity in Japan with a site called 2chan, which was for the first time a place where you can anonymously post things. The reason they used this board was because your cell phone could actually go to it. And in the early days, your cell phone, you could only go to like certain websites. It would only work certain ways, but this allowed, since the Japanese were literally the only ones like using their cell phones for internet at the time, that was built out of necessity. Some kid in the United States who, when they first showed him, I was like, this is the kid who started
little
4chan?
nerdy kids,
dude, with a polo shirt,
and Anonymous and QAnon and all this stuff.
Don't screw with people, because you never know. If he might look like a nerdy kid, but he probably could take you down financially if you wanted to. So be nice. But anyway, it started off, pretty harmless. They, the whole pool thing that they did was kind of tongue-in-cheek.
They would make memes and talk about anime and nerd conventions.
After what they saw with the kind of pool protests and that they could actually organize, they decided to create a group called Anonymous and take down a very big organization. And we'll talk about that next Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Mike, the intern, Jay Stevens in the studio. It is Dark Side of the Stream, episode 181, the Antisocial Network, from memes to mayhem. So, as we talked about in the last break, it was really interesting because you had this group of people that didn't know each other, the kind of social outcasts that had met in this place called 4chan. They first started doing for the lulz, the pool deal. But then that would grow into the Anonymous. I still remember seeing that video that day, expect us. We are Legion.
The mask,
kind of thing,
the mask, right?
There were protests in St. Louis. I was actually in St. Louis when that happened, and I went down to the Loop to see if they actually showed up, and there was a ton of people that day.
Yeah,
outside
they
of the
started learning they could do that they could organize and meet up, plan
things.
Things.
A couple hundred people, but they were like, by the end of the day, it was over 10,000.
Thousands of people show up.
So then they start to see that, well, maybe we can actually do something. So
make some changes.
They join the group Occupy Wall Street, who were at the time embattled in a battle with Wall Street. The fact that all these banks got bailed out after causing the housing crisis, the bubble to pop in the 06, 08 era. And they then, because of that, were unhappy because the New York police came in and started shooting them down with tear gas and being brutal as what they were claiming.
So they started hacking.
A bunch of police department websites.
Good for these guys.
I mean, they went hard. Really,
really. Hey, fight hard. The power.
But these kids aren't stupid. There was one guy that they talked to. He said that he had a chat with some guy who was pretending to be one of the dudes. He was just feeding him all this information,
And he said,
didn't
"This is weird.
really
Yeah,
sus."
this is weird.
Didn't do anything. Closed his laptop. The next day, finds out that one of the guys who's claiming was getting raided. He literally went home, wiped his hard drive, and then spent the next 6 to 8 months on the run,
On the lam, baby.
Trains, buses, living by himself, didn't contact his friends, his family. He was scared to death. That other guy I mentioned earlier got on the internet and wiped himself completely clean from everywhere. Every forum he saw his name, he wiped it where he could. I mean, again, and what I'm getting to is this is such a really cool study of how sociological things happen, and in essence, how you can create something, step away from
takes its life of its own,
and then you can come back. Yep. For example, let's say that Christianity is born, right? And then we go off and we do what we do as human beings, and we perpetuate Christianity into the world and all this stuff. 2,000-3,000 years later, Jesus comes back and he goes, "Okay, how'd you guys do with this Christianity thing I started?" It must look completely different than what was originally the basis of the foundation of what he began, right? You could say that with the clubs you started with at school, and you go back to your high school like 10 years later, it's completely different. I'm using different examples.
Even that thing we did a documentary on, I mean, a dark side on recently, Freak Fest. Same thing.
With a bunch of really cool,
becomes something different.
Black kids.
Coachella, Burning Man.
They wanted to have a spring break, and now it's a party where like people could get seriously hurt, arrested, sex trap. It's a whole other thing.
Own.
Bottom line is this. Sometimes when you create something, you're going to probably create a monster. And I don't think these kids initially thought that this would be what it became. He did his best to try and squash a lot of this stuff. So what happens when you create something and you can't do it there, you just go somewhere else.
Yep.
And that's where all this stuff happened and started going other places. And we'll talk more about that next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. .7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. It is Dark Side of the Stream, episode 181.
We've created a monster.
The Antisocial Network. Yeah, maybe. If anyone's watching.
Dark Side of the Stream, this all started with me saying, "Hey, you got this documentary about..."
Did you see what this guy's neighbor did to him, man? Yeah. Check out 205. Then once I really, my favorite part of this documentary was really the beginning, where you got to see how all these things really started, because I went to them. I was a part of it. I was in college when all this stuff was going down and this stuff was being created. I was a part of it. I saw it. I might have not contributed to it. And sometimes I may have gotten to things where I was like, I'm getting the hell out of here. I don't want to deal with this, but it's there. And that's the internet. It's unregulated, so it's the Wild West. It is what it is.
My internet feed just continuously shows me pictures of girls in bikinis and stuff like that. I don't know why.
I do not ever want to go into like your suggested reels and Instagram.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, why do the devil targets me every day?
Why are we showing all these videos from Thailand, Jay? I don't know. Anyway, so then you start to see the beginnings of what really is the dangerous part of this entire story. You saw in the beginning where some kids would have their really twisted, dark senses of humor, and they would say things where it would be bad. But then the first case of really where it turned really bad was when this female game developer created a game that was a text-based game. It wasn't really a big deal. But then for some reason, all these dudes that were very angry with women, mainly because they probably never had a girlfriend before in their life, they had severe issues with women, just started to lash out on her, lash out on female journalists in the game, and saying they were trying to, demasculine this whole, which is the dumbest thing in the world. But it got traction. And again, it's basically like what you're seeing now in our country. You see it because the media perpetuates the extremes.
Yep.
They perpetuate the extreme right and they perpetuate the extreme left. Most of us are right here
in the middle,
but we don't get coverage. It's like when they were talking about the Occupy Wall Street thing. Those dudes had been out there for weeks and weeks and weeks. Media didn't touch it.
Nope.
Didn't want to say
Only when
about
Anonymous got
it. But
involved.
as soon as someone that had name and recognition and was a little edgy and dangerous, boom, we're going to talk about that.
When I had thought,
it just goes.
The
to show
eye-opening
you,
part of this to me was when I always thought about Anonymous. Oh man, it's this secret group of hackers, these badass dudes. No, a bunch of nerdy kids.
Well, when you saw the guys that were behind this, I mean, you're like, yeah.
Wow.
But again, that's the problem, is you don't know who's behind that.
And then
stuff.
QAnon thing, who was behind that? Really trippy dude.
Well, he's the one who probably started, but now it could be anyone funneling whatever kind of propaganda they want through those channels.
And that one guy that was so hooked by it, and then finally he had like a YouTube page about it, QAnon, this is what's going on. And then finally now he's like, it was all lies. It was all bull.
But he's trying to make money.
Wow.
Again, that's the thing about unregulated internet, is that you can say whatever you want. And if it manifests, then all of a sudden we're all lizard people that were, raised underground in bunkers, and we're running the, media, or whatever kind of crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy you want. That's back to what I said. They only care about what's on the extreme. And that's why the most extreme stuff goes to the forefront, because if for some reason there's validity in it. I don't know why we are that way as humans, but for some reason that is the way it is. And now when they had that one dude who left 4chan and created 8chan and all that stuff, it's just like, man, how far are we going to go with this thing?
Well, that's how the January 6th they got that thing rallied together, was through those boards. It was amazing.
And again, it's crazy to me that there are so many things in this world that really need attention, right? So many things that if we could just show up, like you, if we just show up and give up, 1% of our life, 5% of our life to really good causes, how much better this world would be. But then when you see everything that these people get up in arms about and are willing to just do everything they can, just makes me crazy. It really, what this whole thing did for me as a viewer would just solidified the fact that I think this generation and all the generations that are coming up after me need a lot of therapy. Look
at my deep thoughts with Mike this morning.
Bro, every single one of those dudes, they talk, what they talk about, it's just like, you should seek therapy so you can actually deal with what is causing you to have these thoughts and make you think that this is the way the world is, when it's not. It's all here, buddy. And you need to figure that out.
There you go. That's Mike's PSA.
We'll be back with our reviews. Antisocial Network next on 104.7 The K. Mike, the intern, Jay Stevens, in the studio one more time, going through his random DMs on his social media page. It's the Antisocial Network.
My girlfriend might be listening.
Dark side of the stream. Oh, yeah, she is one of our only watchers. Sorry, Jordan. Anyway, all said and done, I would give this documentary a solid 4 memes.
Yes, me too. Solid 4 memes.
Solid 4. It was
eye-opening for me.
It was cool to see that whoever did their diligence as far as like investigating.
Yeah, and getting these people to talk to him.
That was huge.
And they didn't use avatars or squiggly lines. It was them. It was cool.
Anonymous is not a group with its one person. Anyone can be anonymous.
I thought it was this elite group of hackers. No, it's just a bunch of nerdy kids.
They just tied themselves to what
what a good job they did, man. It was great.
Again,
and it was an easy watch. It was short. I was hungover and I was watching it in the morning before everybody else woke up, and on Saturday it was beautiful.
It's an eye-opening, and hopefully if you do watch it, it'll give you a little bit more perspective of where you find your information and what it is now, because something they didn't really cover in this one, because we're still like really in the beginning of it, is AI. Right?
Yes.
And how literally probably over 50% of anything that's online now is artificially intelligence created.
Like something like 19 video, of the 20 cop Christian sites were Russian bot farms on Facebook.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to the Antisocial Network 2. What the hell are we doing now with AI?
Maybe it's our turn to make 16chan. They keep doubling. We'll make a 16chan.
I don't want my name on that. I don't have time to wipe myself off the internet. Like I said, that DVD is buried. It'll never see the light of day. So what are we watching next?
We are watching Quiet on the Set the Nickelodeon documentary.
Oh, God. Why'd you
Yeah,
have to pick
baby.
that one,
Yeah,
dude?
baby.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna find out what happens.
Great. I can't wait to watch.
You were a child of the
documentary about
90s,
child
right?
exploitation.
Didn't you
This is
watch?
gonna
Didn't
be
you watch
awesome.
all those shows?
Good job, Jay.
iCarly and all those shows and Slime. Didn't you watch all those, Mike? This is
No,
your
that's
era.
way past. How old do you think I am?
I don't know how old you are.
I know he doesn't. He really doesn't.
Once you get to a certain age, everyone's just a kid.
I'm just a kid.
And I'm the old man.
I appreciate it. All right. I can't wait to not really watch this documentary. Watch us do this live on Facebook every Thursday at 9 or on YouTube. You can download it for free as a podcast on our 104.7 The Cave app. Or, of course, listen to it during my show on the air at 9 or Jay's at 6 p.m. Again, I am Mike the Intern.
I am Jay
That's
Stevens.
Jay Stevens reminding you,
We watch
documentaries
documentaries so you don't have to.
It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.
Have you watched any of the Quiet on Set stuff?
I watched-
I don't know.